In Luke 6 and verse 20, Jesus says, "Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you shall be satisfied." Esau was a man who would have been quite perplexed by Jesus' approval of hunger. His raging appetite caused him to sell his birthright to his younger brother Jacob for just a bowl of food. A later inspired writer labeled him as unholy in Hebrews 12 and verse 10 because of his lack of discipline and judgment. The memories that we have, that we read about of Esau, are not ones that are good. Now granted, Esau's hunger probably exceeded our normal mealtime appetites, but it's highly unlikely that he was actually near death from starvation as he claimed. After all, his mother Rebekah could not have been far away, and though Esau was not her favorite son, she certainly would have provided this basic need for him. Eradicating hunger is a major enterprise in today's benevolent societies, and that is praiseworthy in a world that is filled with poverty and starvation. There are millions of people who suffer from scarcity of staple foods. Others are oppressed or neglected even though the means to feed them exists. Jesus taught his followers to feed those who are hungry, even when that includes our enemies, Romans 12 and verse 20. This necessary effort, however, must not cause us to overlook the positive contributions of normal appetite. Jesus' blessing upon the hungry acknowledges the motivation which their hunger provides. Most of us have had experience with people who have lost their appetite because of illness or age. They no longer eat enough to sustain good health because they just don't want the food. They don't desire it. In many cases, eating is nauseating to them. It is unpleasant to even think about eating. In such cases, death may come, even though the underlying illness could have been cured. Their physical health was weakened because they did not have the nourishment that came from food. In the Gospel of Matthew, a different version of this same blessing is preserved. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Matthew 5 and verse 6. Yes, friends, appetite is good, especially when it is the appetite or desire for fellowship with God. Jesus modeled this desire when in his own life, the particular food that he most desired was to do the will of him who sent me and to accomplish his work, John 4 and verse 34. Now, during this current pandemic that we're facing, hundreds of millions of people are suffering from hunger who ordinarily would have been able to provide for themselves. Their need to be helped is apparent, it's understandable and demanding. However, the lack of spiritual nutrition may be even greater, but much less apparent. Our world is struggling on many fronts, and the distance that we have erected from our Creator is the greatest and most urgent of them all. Solomon prefaced his collection of wise sayings known as the Book of Proverbs with this appeal: "Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance to understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction." Proverbs 1 verses 5 through 7. Appetite is also sometimes known as ambition, and it leads us to improve ourselves if it is directed appropriately. As Christians, we are directed to feed the hungry, but we're also commanded to seek out those who long for a right relationship with God and assist them in their search for the truth. But first, we must examine our own appetites and ensure that we desire what is best and what is most needed for ourselves. Friends, I would like to leave you today with the words of the Apostle Paul from Colossians chapter 3, the first 3 verses. "If then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on the things that are on the earth. for you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. Friends, we want to thank you for joining us today, and have a blessed day.